They thought she was just a waitress, someone who cleared tables at Toronto's most exclusive syndicate restaurant. Then Lorenzo Moretti walked in. He was the head of one of the prominent families, and he hadn't smiled since 1999. He looked at her, chuckled, and told his consigliere, in a rare Sicilian dialect, that she was garbage fit only for rats. He thought she was deaf to his world. He was wrong. She didn't just understand him. She replied in her own village's dialect, a language dead to all but the ghosts of Sicily. The room didn't just go silent. It stopped breathing. The waitress wasn't insignificant. She was the weapon he never imagined. Sophie adjusted her black uniform collar. The fabric scratched her neck. The air in Lavetta always smelled the same. Truffle oil, expensive cologne, and fear. It was a peculiar aroma, unique to this part of Yorkville, where parked cars were worth more than most homes in the prairies. She checked her reflection in the polished brass of the espresso machine. Her brown hair was pulled back. She wore minimal makeup and kept her eyes down. Invisibility was the goal. For 3 years, Sophie had perfected being furniture. She wasn't Sophie the woman. She was the hand serving espresso, the shadow clearing plates. "Table 4 is clear," the maitre, Marcos, whispered, passing her. "And straighten your apron. He's coming tonight." Sophie didn't need to ask who he was. The entire restaurant had buzzed nervously since noon. Lorenzo Moretti. The press called him a logistics consultant. The RCMP called him the Teflon Don. On the streets, he was Il Lupo, the wolf. Sophie felt a cold knot in her stomach. She recognized the face. Everyone did. But to her, the name Moretti carried a different weight. It was etched on tombstones of a past she'd buried under a fake social insurance number and a cheap Scarborough apartment. "I'll take the back section," Sophie whispered, swapping shifts with Diana, a younger waitress who viewed mobsters with terror and excitement. "No chance," Marcos retorted. "Diana shakes when she serves soup. You have ice in your veins, Sophie. You get the VIP table. Don't embarrass me, or you're out." She nodded, gripping her tray until her knuckles turned white. She'd spent a decade running from this world, and the legacy that stained her hands red before birth. Now she had to serve wine to the man on a throne built of bones. The heavy oak doors swung open. The ambient jazz didn't stop, but conversation did. Lorenzo walked in. He was taller than in surveillance photos. Sophie studied in her previous life. He wore a dark gray suit, sharply cut. He didn't look around. He owned the space. By his side were Matteo, a brute with a scarred eyebrow, and Silvio, the older, shark-eyed consigliere. They made for table 4, the corner booth, with the best view of the exits. Sophie took a deep breath. "Just a waitress," she repeated. "Just a ghost." She approached the table with the water pitcher. Her movements were precise, practiced. She poured water without spilling a drop, setting glasses down delicately. Lorenzo didn't lift his eyes. He examined the menu. Everyone knew he'd order ossobuco without looking. "Good evening, gentlemen," Sophie said, her voice flat. "Can I get you anything from the bar?" Lorenzo waved a dismissive hand, too haughty to speak to staff. Silvio, the older man, looked up. "Open the 96 Barolo, an hour before serving, and bring the antipasti immediately." "Of course," she said, turning to leave. That's when it happened. She felt Lorenzo's eyes on her. It wasn't attraction, it was a predator sensing movement. "Wait," Lorenzo said, his voice a gravelly silk. Sophie froze, back still to him. She slowly turned. "Yes, sir." He looked her up and down, analyzing her shoes, hands, posture. He sought a threat. He found a waitress. He scoffed, a cruel, arrogant sound. Leaning back, he turned to Silvio, switching languages. Not English, not standard Italian, but a distorted Sicilian dialect, influenced by Arberesh from Palermo's mountain villages. It was code, a language of old families to discuss business before Canadian law enforcement. Lorenzo muttered to Silvio, vaguely gesturing at Sophie with his chin. "Look at this woman, cheap meat. She looks like a tired mule who can't even hold a plate." Silvio chuckled, sipping water. "A shame, Enzo. But as long as she brings the wine, who cares?" Lorenzo smiled cruelly. "Sophie, in Sicily I'd have her cleaning latrines. That's all she's worth." The insult was crude, classless, typical Moretti arrogance. Sophie stood, her tray trembling slightly. Not from fear, but rage. She knew that dialect. It was her grandmother's lullaby tongue, her father's last words before he was shot in a Sicilian olive grove 20 years ago. It was her blood. The smartest thing was to leave. The safest was to be the mule, he thought. But Sophie was tired. Tired of hiding, of cheap uniforms. of men like Moretti who thought themselves gods for carrying guns. The silence stretched. They expected her to bow and leave. Instead, she gripped the empty tray tighter. Her posture shifted. The tired waitress's slouch vanished, replaced by the proud bearing of a woman born into an older dynasty. She looked Lorenzo directly in the eyes. The air dropped 10 degrees. The jazz piano became white noise. Lorenzo already looked away, reaching for a bread roll, ignoring her. Sophie didn't move. "Mle bouche," she repeated softly. Lorenzo's hand froze mid-air. Not the words, but the accent. She didn't say it like a Canadian tourist. She said it with the guttural, clipped rhythm of the old country. He slowly turned his head, brow furrowed. "Excuse me?" he said in English, assuming he'd misheard. Sophie didn't blink. She stepped closer to the table, violating the invisible barrier mob bosses kept. She spoke clearly, her voice cutting through the din, but not English. Effortlessly, she switched to the same obscure Sicilian dialect. "Dei Moretti," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "You speak of mules, Don Moretti, but a real man doesn't insult those who serve him bread. Only dogs bark at those they cannot bite." Nearby cutlery stopped clinking. Silvio dropped his fork loudly. "Matteo, the bodyguard." Half rose, hand dipping for a weapon. Lorenzo raised a hand to stop him, but his eyes never left Sophie's face. The arrogance was gone, wiped clean by shock. His face paled, then flushed with dangerous heat. "She see also," Lorenzo whispered, reverting to dialect. "Who are you?" Sophie tilted her head, a cold smile touching her lips. "I'm the one who brings you wine," she replied. She held his gaze for 3 seconds, each an eternity, a challenge. Then, as if a switch had flipped, she was the subservient waitress again. "I'll get that bottle of wine now," she said in flat English. Decanted. An hour. She turned and walked away. She felt his eyes burning her back. Pushing through the kitchen doors, she collapsed against the stainless steel counter, gasping. "Sophie!" Marcos yelled from the pass. "Antipasto for table 4! I'll get it!" she snapped, hands trembling as she picked up the prosciutto and melon. She had made a grave, potentially fatal, mistake. You didn't humiliate a capo before his men, and you certainly didn't reveal you spoke the inner circle's secret language. In the dining room, Table 4's atmosphere shifted from relaxed to lethal. Lorenzo stared at the kitchen doors, gripping the tablecloth, knuckles white. "I understand," Silvio whispered, wiping sweat. "Ino," she said. "I understand, Arberish. It's not textbook Italian. It's from the village, from the family." "I know what it is," Lorenzo growled. "Who is she?" Matteo asked, eyes sweeping the room. "A federal agent? A spy?" "No," Lorenzo said, mind racing. "Feds learn textbook Italian. They sound like school books. She sounded like my grandmother." He looked at his hands. He'd insulted her, called her trash, but she'd rebuked him with more dignity than his own captains. "Find out," Lorenzo ordered low. "Boss, can we just grab her after her shift?" Matteo suggested. "No," Lorenzo snapped. "We're in public, and I want to know who sent her. You don't find a girl like that serving pasta in Yorkville by chance. Someone put her here. Maybe the Russians, or maybe the Triad. Or maybe," Silvio said softly, "she's just a ghost." Lorenzo rose. "I'm not hungry," he told his men. "Leave dollars on the table. We're leaving. I'll handle the girl," Lorenzo said, buttoning his jacket. Sophie peered through the small kitchen door window, seeing Lorenzo Moretti walk towards the exit. But before reaching the door, he stopped, turned, and looked directly at the kitchen window. He couldn't see her, but he knew she was there. He brought 2 fingers to his eyes and pointed at the door. "I'm watching you," he seemed to say. Sophie recoiled, heart beating hard like a trapped bird. She'd wanted to wound his ego. Instead, she'd invited the wolf into her home. The shift ended at 2 a.m. Sophie spent the rest of the night jumpy at shadows. She quickly changed into a baggy gray hoodie and jeans, exiting through the back alley, where wet cardboard and garbage smelled. This was Toronto's unglamorous reality. She walked quickly, head down, keys between her fingers, a habit from living on the run. 2 blocks down King Street West, she saw a black Cadillac Escalade, parked at the curb. The engine purred, windows so dark they looked like oil slicks. Sophie stopped. She turned to go the other way, but a sleek Maserati pulled out of a side street, blocking her retreat. She was cornered. The Escalade's rear door opened. Not Matteo, nor a goon. It was Lorenzo. "Alone." He leaned against the doorframe, lighting a cigarette. The flame illuminated his sharp face. He looked different under the streetlights. Less king, more street fighter. in an expensive suit. "You walk fast," he said. Sophie didn't answer. She calculated the distance to the subway. 50 meters. Too far. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, taking a drag. "If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it past the dumpster." "What do you want?" Sophie asked, voice steady. "Answers," Lorenzo said. He dropped the cigarette, crushing it with his polished shoe. "You embarrassed me tonight, Sophie. That's the name on the tag, right? Sophie is common, and you're speaking the Corleone Mountain dialect. Is that common?" He stepped towards her. "I looked you up while I was waiting. Sophie Miller, Sin from Saskatchewan. High school in Regina. No passport, no family." He stopped 3 feet away. He smelled of tobacco and danger. "Paper," he whispered. "You're made of paper, Sophie. Your whole life is a typed lie by someone good at forgery. Who are you really?" "I'm just a waitress who wants to go home," she said. "Leah." Lorenzo reached out. For a moment, Sophie thought he'd hit her. Her body reacted on instinct. Muscle memory from years unused kicked in. As his hand moved towards her shoulder, she didn't flinch. Instead, she slapped his wrist away with her left hand, stepped inside his guard, and drove her right elbow towards his ribs. It was fast. Lorenzo, to his credit, was quick. He blocked the blow, but the force knocked the breath out of him. He staggered back, staring at her wide-eyed. Sophie stood in a fighter's stance, low center of gravity, hands raised. "Girls from Saskatchewan don't fight like Krav Maga instructors," Lorenzo gasped, a smirk slowly returning. He didn't look angry. He looked delighted. "Stay away from me, Moretti," Sophie warned. "You hit a man who works as a waitress." Lorenzo laughed darkly. "Do you know the punishment for that?" "I know the rules," she said. "You know the rules," he repeated. He straightened his jacket. "You speak the language, you fight like a soldier, and you hide like a spy." He stepped closer, slower, hands raised in surrender. "I have a problem, Sophie. Enemies all around me. Traitors in my organization. Tonight I found the only person in Toronto unafraid of me." He reached into his pocket. Sophie tensed, ready to strike. He pulled out a black card with a single gold phone number. "I don't need a waitress," Lorenzo said softly. "I need someone who can see the knives coming before I do. Someone who understands the old ways." He slipped the card into her jacket pocket. "Call me or don't, but if the Russians find out who you really are before I do, you'll wish you were with me." He got back into the Escalade. The door slammed. Tires squealed as the car sped off, leaving Sophie alone under the flickering streetlight. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the card. Her hands trembled. The Russians, he'd mentioned them. Sophie closed her eyes. If the Russians were in town, her cover wasn't just blown, it was shattered. The Russians were who killed her father. She looked at the black card. Lorenzo Moretti was a monster, but he might be her only protection against her past's demons. Sophie didn't go straight home. She took the subway, rode past her stop, got off at the next, took a bus back, and walked the last kilometer through winding Scarborough streets. At 3:30 a.m., she finally stood before her building, a crumbling brick walk-up, smelling of boiled cabbage and damp plaster. She stopped at the front door. Something was wrong. A small detail most wouldn't notice. Before work, she'd placed clear tape on the doorframe's bottom corner, an old trick her father taught her at 12. "Trust God, Sophie, but check everyone else." When she saw the tape broken, she held her breath. Someone was inside. She backed away slowly, into the alley's shadows. Her mind raced. Lorenzo? Had he broken his promise? Sent goons? No, Lorenzo was arrogant, not sloppy. If he wanted her, he'd have taken her then. This felt different, clumsy, like the Russians. She had two choices: run, leaving everything behind, or go in and fight, abandoning her stashed cash, fake passports, and her mother's only photo. Sophie touched her hoodie pocket. A steak knife from the restaurant, a small can of pepper spray. Not an arsenal against syndicate assassins. Then, she remembered the black card. Pulled it out. Golden numbers gleamed in dim light. "Call me," she dialed. It rang once. "Speak," Lorenzo's voice, wide awake. "Someone's in my apartment," Sophie whispered, back against the brick wall. A pause. Static, crackled. "Where are you?" "Outside in Scarborough, on 42nd Street. "Are you safe?" "For the next 30 seconds, at least. After that, I don't know." "Stay hidden," Lorenzo ordered. "Don't go in, don't engage. I have a car 2 blocks away watching you." Sophie froze. He had me followed. I told you I'm a logistics consultant. I protect my investments. Meet me at the corner of Spadina Avenue. Grey sedan. Code word is Omia. Go. The line went dead. Sophie had no time for anger about the surveillance. Her building's front door opened. Two large men in bulging leather jackets stepped out. Eastern European, not Italian. The Russians used Albanian muscle. One checked his phone. She's not inside. Place is empty. Find her, the other snarled. Bring her head, Don said. Sophie's blood ran cold. Bring her head, not recruitment. Execution. She hid deeper in the alley, navigating dumpsters silently. She reached Spadina Avenue's corner just as the gray sedan pulled up. The window rolled down slightly. Code? The driver asked. He looked like an ex-Marine. Omia, Sophie replied, diving into the back seat as the door opened. Go, she yelled. Tires squealed as the car sped off, just as the two Albanians rounded the corner, guns drawn. They fired 2 shots, shattering the taillight, but the sedan had already weaved into traffic, disappearing into the city night. Sophie leaned back against the leather seat, heart pounding. She was alive, but Sophie Miller, the waitress, was dead. Her apartment was compromised. Her identity was compromised. The car stopped in a private underground parking garage downtown Toronto. An elevator whisked her to the St. Regis Hotel's 35th floor penthouse. Doors opened directly into a living room worth more than her life's earnings. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Toronto's glittering urban grid. Lorenzo stood by the fireplace, sipping amber liquid. He changed into a black silk shirt and trousers. He looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. I have a pest problem, he said, turning to her. Albanian Russians. Sophie corrected, walking in. She felt dirty, insignificant in this glass and gold palace. They hired the Albanians, the Russians, Lorenzo mused, swirling his drink. They're encroaching on my Portland's territory, aggressive and stupid. He looked at her. Why do the Russians want Sophie dead? Sophie? She walked to the window, looking at the city that wanted to swallow her. Because my name isn't Sophie Miller. I know, Lorenzo said softly. I made calls while you were on your way. He laid a file on the glass table. You are Sofia Rossi, he said, daughter of Giacomo Rossi, Don of Palermo, who controlled the olive oil trade for 30 years until murdered in 2005. Sophia flinched. Hearing her true name aloud was a physical blow. They killed him, she whispered. The Russians wanted his shipping routes. They killed him, my mother, my brothers. I was away at boarding school in Switzerland. I was the only one left, and I've been running ever since, Lorenzo concluded. Serving tables, scrubbing floors, hiding from ghosts. I'm not hiding anymore, Sophie said, turning to him. Her eyes were dry. They found me. I have nowhere left to go. Lorenzo stepped closer, close enough for her to feel his heat. You do, he said. The Rossi family was allied with the Morettis. Your father and my grandfather shared meals. He extended his hand. Work for me, Sophia. Not as a waitress. Be my eyes, my ears. You speak the dialects, know the customs, have the blood. My organization is full of snakes. I need a mongoose. What's in it for me? Sophie asked, looking at his hand. Protection, Lorenzo promised. Money. And when the time is right, you get the Russians. Sophie looked at his hand, then his face. The Wolf of Toronto offered a pact with the devil, but for now, he was her only defense. She took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, dangerous. Deal, she said. The transformation took 3 days. Lorenzo didn't just offer a job. He gave her new skin. Cheap polyester uniforms and baggy hoodies replaced by tailored blazers, silk blouses, heels that felt like weapons. He moved her into a secure apartment in his building, 3 floors below his. But the real change was internal. Sophie, now Sophia in the inner circle, relearned to be a predator. Her first test came Tuesday night, a meeting with the Calabresi family at a private Portland's warehouse. Stay close, Lorenzo said, adjusting his earpiece in the SUV. Don't speak unless I ask. Just listen. Listen to what they say, and more importantly, what they don't say. Who are we meeting? Vincent the Butcher Vargo, Lorenzo said, checking his pistol. He claims he wants peace. Says he didn't know the Russians were moving in. Do you believe him? I believe everyone is a liar until they die, Lorenzo replied. They entered the warehouse. It was cold, smelling of rust and sea salt. Vargo waited at a metal table, surrounded by 4 guards. Obese, grease-stained shirt, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Lorenzo sat opposite. Silvio stood right. Sophia stood left, holding a briefcase, supposedly with contracts, but actually a loaded Glock 19. and a tracking device. The meeting began cordially. They spoke standard Italian. Vargo apologized for friction, offering Lorenzo a percentage of his construction unions as peace. "I have no love for the Russians," Vargo said, spreading his hands. "They're animals, no respect for tradition. You and I, Lorenzo, are men of honor." Lorenzo nodded, seemingly placated. "The construction deal is generous, Vincent. I accept." The tension dissipated. Silvio relaxed, but Sofia felt a prickle. She watched Vargo's consigliere, thin Paolo, lingering in shadows. As Vargo spoke Italian, Paolo whispered into a phone, "Not Italian, Arberesh." Sofia strained, filtering echoes. "ISIS, Nariti," Paolo whispered. "The fish are in the net." Sofia's eyes widened. It was a trap. She didn't wait for permission, stepped forward, hand on Lorenzo's shoulder. Grave breach of protocol. "Boss," she said in sharp English, "we need to leave now." Vargo's smile vanished. "Excuse me, who is this woman?" "Shut up," Lorenzo yelled at Vargo, then looked at Sofia. "Why?" "Paolo," she said, pointing at the man. "He just gave the signal. The fish are in the net. We're not alone here." Vargo's face purpled. "She's lying. She's crazy." Lorenzo looked at Sofia. He saw certainty. He didn't hesitate, kicked the table, using it as a shield the moment skylights shattered. Men descended from rafters on ropes, machine guns firing. "Ambush," Silvio yelled, returning fire. "Go." Lorenzo grabbed Sofia's arm, yanked her behind shipping crates. Bullets chewed concrete where they'd been. "How did you know?" Lorenzo yelled over gunfire. He spoke the dialect. Sofia yelled back, pulling her Glock from the briefcase. "They sold you to the Russians." They were pinned. Vargo's men approached front, repelling team flanked above. Silvio was hit. Matteo yelled from across the room. The older consigliere clutched his leg, blood seeping. Lorenzo looked at his mentor, then the exit 50 meters away, hidden by bullet rain. He looked trapped. For the first time, the wolf looked cornered. Sofia saw it too. She saw hesitation. "Cover me," she said. "What?" "No." Lorenzo grabbed her. "You're an analyst, not a soldier." "I'm a Rossi," she snarled, shaking off his grip. "And nobody kills my boss in the first week." She didn't wait. Bolted from cover, running laterally across open space. Not just running, drawing fire. Shooters in rafters aimed at the woman in heels running like an Olympian. Sofia slid across the floor, ducking behind a forklift. Took a breath, rose, fired 3 times. Her aim was true. 2 men in rafters dropped, bodies hitting concrete with sickening thud. The distraction worked. Lorenzo and Matteo dragged Silvio towards the exit, firing warning shots. Sofia joined them at the heavy iron door. Lorenzo kicked it open, and they tumbled out into the rainy night, where their convoy waited. They scrambled into the SUV, speeding away, tires screeching. Inside, silence for a full minute, broken only by Silvio's groans. Lorenzo looked at Sofia, hair disheveled, blazer torn, grease smudge on her cheek. She calmly, steadily reloaded her magazine. He'd never seen anything so beautiful. "You saved us," Lorenzo said, voice filled with awe. "I did my job," Sofia replied, clicking the magazine into place. "You killed 2 men," Lorenzo observed. It was self-defense. Lorenzo reached out, wiped the grease from her cheek with his thumb. His touch was gentle, a stark contrast to the violence. "You're not just a Rossi," he whispered. "You're dangerous." "Is that a problem?" she challenged, looking into his dark eyes. Lorenzo leaned in, face inches from hers. Adrenaline coursed through both, creating an electric field. "No," he murmured. "It's exactly what I've been waiting for." For a moment, it seemed he'd kiss her. The air crackled with unspoken desire, fear, and attraction. Then his phone rang. Lorenzo pulled away, breaking the spell. He answered, face hardening. "What?" he barked. After listening, he slowly lowered the phone, looked at Sofia, but the warmth vanished. In its place, deep betrayal. "Driver," Lorenzo said coldly. "Pull over." "What's wrong?" Sofia asked, sensing the change. "It was my contact at the RCMP," Lorenzo said, voice devoid of emotion. "He just did a ballistic analysis on the weapon found at Vargo's warehouse, the one his men used. It matches the weapon used to kill my brother 3 years ago." Lorenzo turned to Sofia, eyes cold as ice. "The gun belongs to the Rossi family, Sofia. Your father's family." Sofia froze. "That's impossible. My father's been dead for 20 years. Our weapons were destroyed." "Were they?" Lorenzo asked. Or have you been lying to me this whole time? Are you here to help me, Sofia? Or are you here to finish what your father started? The car pulled over to the rain-soaked highway's side. Get out, Lorenzo said. Lorenzo, listen to me. I said get out, he yelled, hand reaching for his gun. Remember you saved my life 5 minutes ago. Sofia stared at him, frustrated tears in her eyes. He was wrong. Someone was framing her and her family, but the wolf was wounded. Unwilling to listen, she opened the door, stepped into the torrential rain. The SUV sped off, leaving her abandoned on the highway, alone again. But this time, she wasn't just a waitress running from her past. She was a soldier in a war she hadn't started, determined to finish it. Sofia walked 5 kilometers in the rain to a roadside diner. She sat in the back booth, shivering, wet clothes clinging. She ordered black coffee, staring into the dark liquid. Lorenzo thought her a traitor. The Russians wanted her dead. Vargo recognized her. Checkmate. But Sofia Rossi had one advantage. Nobody knew she existed. Well, not exactly. To Lorenzo, she was unpredictable. To the Russians, a loose end. But to herself, she was the daughter of the Olive Prince. She needed to find out who planted the gun, who orchestrated the war between the Morettis and the ghost of the Rossis. She reached into her bra, pulling out a small, waterproof USB drive. She'd stolen it from Vargo's office during the shootout chaos. While everyone shot, she stole. She pulled a cracked burner smartphone from her pocket, plugged in the device. Scrolling encrypted files, spreadsheets, payments, shipping manifests, she found it. A transfer order for Project Lazarus. Delivery of supplies. Recipient: Matteo Giordano. Sofia stopped breathing. Matteo was Lorenzo's right-hand man, the brute with the scar. On Vargo's payroll, he planted the gun, set the ambush. Lorenzo wasn't betrayed by Rossi ghosts. He was betrayed by the man beside him. Sofia checked the file's date and time. A midnight meeting tonight at Levetta, where it all began. Matteo would deliver Lorenzo to the Russians. The warehouse ambush was a ploy to separate Lorenzo from loyal men, make him paranoid, isolate him. She'd just been kicked from the car. Lorenzo was alone with Matteo. Sofia looked at the wall clock. 11 p.m. 45 minutes to get back to Yorkville. No car, no reinforcements, 6 bullets left. She ran into the parking lot. A trucker was climbing into his rig. "Hey!" she yelled, waving the $100 bill from her shoe. "Fast ride to the city." The trucker looked at the wet, desperate woman with fierce eyes. "Get in, lady." The drive took 30 minutes. Sofia spent every second cleaning her gun, praying to saints she hadn't believed in for years. The truck dropped her 2 blocks from Levetta, streets silent. The restaurant should be closed, but a faint light shone inside. Sofia crept to the back alley, the same one Lorenzo confronted her in. She peered through the dirty window. The main dining room was set for a private dinner, but no food. Lorenzo was tied to a chair center stage, his face bloody, beaten. Standing over him, Matteo held a baseball bat. Sitting at table 4, Lorenzo's table, was a man Sofia recognized from nightmares. Victor Russo. Victor Russo, the man who shot her father. "You're losing your touch, Lorenzo," he chuckled, carving steak. "Let a girl distract you. Let your guard down." "She had nothing to do with this." Lorenzo spat, blood trickling. "She's gone." "Is she?" Matteo smirked. "Or maybe she worked for me all along. Maybe she led you to the warehouse." "Don't you dare say her name," Lorenzo snarled. Even bound, beaten, he defended her. Sofia felt a pang. He hadn't completely abandoned her. Confused, hurt, but still protecting. "It doesn't matter," Russo said, wiping his mouth. "Sign the waterfront transfer papers, Lorenzo, and I'll make it quick. Refuse, and I'll let Matteo practice his swing." Lorenzo looked up, defiant eyes. "Go to hell." Matteo raised the bat. Sofia knew she couldn't face them all. 4 guards at the door, plus Matteo and Russo. 6 men, 6 bullets. She needed a distraction, a miracle. Looked around the kitchen. Industrial gas piping, stoves. Cut the piping, create a spark, suicide. But the only way. Sofia kicked open the back door. No sneaking, she entered loudly. "Hey!" she yelled. All heads turned. Matteo lowered the bat. Russo squinted. "Who the hell is that?" "I'm the waitress," Sofia said, walking into the dining room. Gun held at her side, looking harmless. "Sofia, run!" Lorenzo yelled, tugging ropes. "I tried running," she said, voice trembling with adrenaline. "I didn't like it." "Kill her," Russo ordered casually. two guards raised weapons. "Wait!" Sofia yelled. "I have the USB drive with Lorenzo's offshore account's encryption key. You want the money, don't you?" "It's all here." She held up the USB drive. Russo raised a hand. "Don't shoot." He looked greedily at the drive. "Bring it here." Sofia walked slowly, past the kitchen. As she did, she subtly kicked the gas stove valve she'd loosened. Silent, immortal gas filled the kitchen behind her. She walked to table 4, 5 feet from Lorenzo. "I'm sorry, boss," she whispered to him. "Sofia, what are you doing?" Lorenzo pleaded. She looked at Matteo. "You traitorous pig," looked at Russo. "And you murderer, hand over the hard drive." Russo demanded, rising. "Catch," Sofia said. She tossed the hard drive in the air. Everyone watched the small silver object fly towards the ceiling. Sofia dropped to her knees. She didn't shoot Russo, didn't shoot Matteo. Instead, she fired a single shot into the kitchen, aiming blindly at the metal siding where sparks would fly. Boom! The kitchen exploded. A fireball erupted from the back, tearing doors off hinges, sending heat and debris into the dining room. The shockwave knocked everyone down. Levetta's windows shattered onto the street. Sprinklers activated, dousing the burning chaos. Anticipating the blast, Sofia was already moving, scrambled over broken glass to Lorenzo. "Sofia!" he coughed, ears ringing. She pulled a knife from her boot, cut his ropes. "Can you move?" "Yes," he groaned, struggling up. "Then fight." Matteo stumbled up, face burning with rage. Roared like an animal, charged them. Lorenzo met him halfway. No gun, but rage. He intercepted Matteo's charge, shoulder against the traitor's abdomen. They crashed into a table, breaking glass, spilling water. Meanwhile, Russo crawled towards his gun. Sofia stomped on his hand. "Crunch!" Russo screamed. Looked up at her, terror in his eyes. "You!" he gasped. "You're just like him." "Good," Sofia said. She raised her gun. "No!" Lorenzo yelled, leaving unconscious Matteo. "Sofia! No, we need him alive." "We need the codes." Sofia hesitated. Finger on trigger. The man who killed her father, right there. Justice within reach. Sirens wailed. "Police coming." "Sofia!" Lorenzo grabbed her arm. "We have to go," he said. "Kill him. The war never ends. We take him, make him confess. Win the right way." She looked at Lorenzo, face bruised, suit ruined, but he looked with desperate intensity, not ordering, pleading as a partner. She lowered the gun. "Grab him," she said. Lorenzo howled the groaning Russo by his collar. Sofia covered the exit. They stumbled out, into cold night air, leaving Levetta's burning ruins. Reached the alley, as the first police car screeched outside. They slumped against the adjacent building's brick wall, hidden in shadows. Both gasping, soaked, bleeding, alive. Lorenzo looked at her. He laughed. Ragged, breathless. "You blew up my restaurant," he said. "It was dry anyway," she replied, a faint smile touching her lips. Lorenzo reached out, cupped her face. This time, no phone call. He kissed her. Her kiss tasted of smoke, blood, rain, but it was the most real thing either had experienced. "We're not finished," Lorenzo whispered against her lips. "The other families will come for us." "Let them come," Sofia said, gripping his lapel. "I speak their language now." The hideout was a disused freezer in a Mississauga industrial park, a cold steel tomb smelling of rust. Victor Russo sat hands tied behind his back, bled from his broken nose but still smiled disdainfully. Lorenzo paced before him. Sofia leaned against a conveyor belt, Glock comfortably in hand. "It's over, Victor," Lorenzo said, voice raw. "Matteo ran. My restaurant is gone. But you're here. You can't kill me," Russo spat. "I'm a family head. Kill me without a commission vote, the other 3 families will chase you. You'll start an unwinnable war." Lorenzo stopped. He knew Russo was right. Old laws protected Dons. "I don't need to kill you," Lorenzo said calmly. "Just the truth. Admit you framed the Rossi family." Russo laughed, wet, gurgling. "I'd rather die." Sofia pushed off the wall, walked slowly towards him. Not angry, ancient. Stopped inches from his face. "Larbulev," she whispered. "Remember the olive groves?" Russo blinked, the dialect disturbed. "I remember," Sofia continued. "I was 10. You came to my father's house in Palermo. You gave me a gold coin." She paused. "Then you shot my father in the back in the olive grove." Russo was paralyzed, face pale. The waitress wasn't just a look-alike. She was a ghost. "Sofia," he whispered. "It was business, always business," she agreed. picked up a burner phone. I'm not killing you, Victor. Too easy. She dialed, put it on speaker. A heavily accented voice answered. Don Giamino, head of the North American Commission, highest authority. Don Giamino, Sofia said, eyes locked on Russo. This is Sofia Rossi, Giacomo's daughter. Silence on the line, then a deep, low voice. We thought you dead, child. I was, Sofia said, until Victor Russo tried to finish the job tonight. I have him here. He killed a man without authorization 20 years ago, and tonight he used explosives in a civilian establishment. Russo struggled. Hang up, hang up! In their world, condemnation by Sicily was worse than death. It was erasure. Put the phone to Victor's ear, the Don ordered. Sofia placed it. Victor, the old voice crackled. You brought shame. You are alone. Do what is honorable. The line went dead. Russo sagged, not afraid to die, afraid to be stripped of his name. What do you want? Russo whispered. Retirement, Sofia replied coldly. Florida. Never set foot in Toronto again. If you do, the commission's order stands. Russo slowly nodded, defeated not by fists, but by lineage. 3 days later, the meeting at Café Rio in Kensington Market. Heads of the 3 remaining families sat at the marble table, skeptical, tense. Lorenzo walked in, bruised but in a new suit, stood at the table's head. Russo is gone, Lorenzo announced. I have absorbed his operations. That's aggressive. Frank, a family head, said wearily. Who helped you orchestrate this coup? We hear Silvio is in the hospital. Lorenzo smiled. Gentlemen, may I introduce my partner? Sofia walked in. A tailored white suit that seemed to glow. Her only jewelry was a single heavy gold ring, her father's. This is Sofia Rossi, Lorenzo said. The name hit like a hammer. Sofia walked to the empty chair beside Lorenzo. Gentlemen, she addressed them, voice commanding. My father respected this table. I intend to do the same, but know this, the Moretti and Rossi families are now one. She looked at each, unflinching. Russo underestimated us because he saw a waitress, not an equal. Don't make the same mistake. Frank looked at Lorenzo, then Sofia, seeing them together. A united front, a dynasty. Frank slowly nodded, raised his espresso cup, already familiar. 6 months later, the new restaurant was called La Verità, the legacy grander than the old. Opening night, the room filled with politicians, power players. Sofia stood on the balcony, watching. She saw a young waitress drop a fork, flustered. Sofia descended, weaving through the crowd. I'm so sorry, Miss Rossi, the girl stammered. Please don't fire me. Sofia picked up the fork, smiled genuinely. Breathe, she said. I used to work this station. Table 4 is a nightmare, isn't it? The girl blinked. You used to work here? Yes, and I dropped far more than a fork. Sofia squeezed her shoulder. Walk like you own the place, and eventually you will. She turned, found Lorenzo waiting at the bar with 2 scotches. You're soft, boss, he teased, handing her a glass. I'm efficient, she corrected. Fear makes people clumsy. Respect makes them loyal. Lorenzo looked at their empire, then at her. Do you miss it? Being invisible? The simple life? Sofia looked at the front door, thought of fear, hiding, loneliness, as Sophie Miller. Then looked at Lorenzo, the wolf who made her queen. No, she said. Leaning in, she whispered in his ear. In Sicilian. One last time. Sumenta, Enzo. Estoy en casa. Finalmente estoy en casa. Lorenzo smiled, the rare genuine smile she'd seen once before. He took her hand, and they turned to face the room together. They were Toronto's king and queen. God help anyone who forgot to bring them their bread. From waitress to queen of the Toronto underworld, Sofia Rossi proved you never judge a book by its cover, or a woman by her apron. She didn't just survive the Shark Tank, she became the shark. It makes us think how many people pass us daily, hiding secret powers, waiting for the right moment. If you like this story of revenge, romance, and syndicate justice, like The Post, it helps the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell for the next dramatic story. What would you have done as Sofia? Saved Lorenzo or left him to fate?